Hi, and thank you for joining me for day 29 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life Series 18. Today is also a very special day because we are celebrating my friend Helen Ding, who hit 1,000 subscribers, which is a huge milestone on YouTube. So today I wanted to document more photos of Amelia's 18th. I'm using Jen Hadfield Groovy Darling to do this and focusing in on the pinks because the photos really are quite pink. So I'm starting with a black cardstock as my base this time, just staying fairly true to the sketch, which you can see in the top left-hand corner there. And I've started with this lovely pink and orange paper, which I've torn across the bottom per the sketch. And then the bit that I tore off, I've cut in half to use the other torn piece as another layer at the bottom, and then use a very thin sliver of the B side of this paper at the top. So you'll see a tiny bit of the black card behind that at the top and a slightly larger piece at the bottom. But other than that, the card is just a base to hold all the papers. So unlike me, I'm doing a pattern paper background, but this is an homage to Helen. She uses a lot of pattern paper for her backgrounds, so I wanted to try and do that for her this time. Excuse me. So I'm just adding those strips to the top and bottom. Not very easy because there wasn't a lot to start with. So I'm just going to quickly get that stuck down onto the black base. And you'll see, because I'm using ATG, you only really get one chance at doing this. And I was slightly off skew. So I just trim one of the edges where the black card is showing. So the paper is just going to be a tiny bit under 12 inch, but it really doesn't matter. Once it's in the page protector, you won't notice. This is me trying to pull it up to see if I can reposition, but I can't. So you can see there, it's just ever so slightly off. So I'm just trimming these tiny bits off at the edge just to straighten that up. The other piece where the paper's overlapping the card, I'm not so bothered about, so I just leave that as is because I don't want to make it too small or too narrow. So just roughing up those edges, top and bottom, and then I can carry on creating. So I'm going to use this pink grid as the large mat in the centre of the paper, just working out how to put this down. Now Helen's got slightly different size photos than me, but I am a bit lazy when it comes to creating photos. I tend to just use the Project Life app and just add 2 to a 4x6 sheet to get 2 3x4 photos. So that's what I've done here to get these 3 photos. So I'm just going to distress all the edges again of this mat that's going to go in the centre of the page and then get that stuck down. So I do love Groovy Darling and I often forget about it, but I've been pulling into it more recently and it's such a gorgeous collection. The elements in it are quite big, but that sometimes helps to create a page, being big and bold rather than using lots of tiny little bits. So just really roughing up the edges of that square to get some nice texture on there, and then the photos are going to sit roughly like that. So I'm going to map them onto white cardstock. Just going to create the strips at the side first of all. So I've got this gorgeous mauve. I'm just cutting a strip about 2.5 inches. I don't measure, just trying to work out the rough width I want, and then chopping a little bit off the top. And then another piece using this beautiful floral. I do consider use the orange on the background, but I wanted to bring in a little bit more pattern to the background here, rather than just having tone on tones all the time. So you'll see I turn that back over. And I've cut that slightly narrower, so probably around 2 inches, and again slightly shorter, just so that it layers nicely against that first strip. So just making sure that I've got plenty of texture on that mat in the background, and then I'm going to distress the edges of these rectangles. I won't make you watch all of that, just distressing the edges, and then I'll get those glued down, just using my ATG gun and getting them situated. And you'll notice I only add the glue in the centre of the strips. I like the edges to be able to be curled up and just create a little bit more texture and definition. So as I mentioned, now those strips are down, I can start matting the photos onto white cardstock. I do this with most of my layouts. It just creates a nice border and definition between the photos. When you've got a series of 3 photos, it's nice to show the defining points between each of the 3. So just checking that I'm happy with the positioning. I will move that several times, but they end up more or less where I showed you there. So just using some scrap white card just to get these stuck down, and then I'll use my mini guillotine just to trim those off. So the first photo is Amelia with her bottle of Budweiser in the Italian restaurant that we go to a lot as a family. The 3 of them decided that they wanted to go there, and it was so lovely. One of her friends had decorated a cake for her with Garfield on it. She'd spent hours. Her mum said she really enjoyed doing it, but that was really special. And then the other girl, her mum had popped in while she was at work and delivered some balloons and things. So she had a birthday sash and all sorts. It was just really special. So the first photo is her in the restaurant. The top photo is her carrying one of the big balloons. She had about 3 balloons from them. And then the third photo is them all just before they went into Wetherspoons. They popped into Wetherspoons afterwards for some drinks. So just finally trying to work out how these go before gluing them down. I just want to make sure that I'm happy with the positioning. So that first one's glued, and then just get the others 2 in place. And I want to make sure they're within that pink mat on the background as well. So just tucking them in. This one you can see I'm almost covering Amelia before I realise it needs to go over the top of that first photo. So now they're down, I can start embellishing. So I'm bringing out the ephemera and papery pieces from this collection. Straight away I spot that lovely floral, which is just a half flower. I've used the other half on a previous layout. And I'm just starting to lay things out really. Sorry Helen, I've not really taken much notice of your embellishment clusters. I'm just putting them where I feel they suit on these photos. I think because my photos are a slightly different size, so ending up looking slightly different on the page. My embellishment clusters went in slightly different positions, but I've still got 3. You'll see the third one developing in due course, but I'm just pulling anything that I think might work, pulling it out and putting it down in those 3 cluster areas. So I like that paint chip piece, but I just wanted to use the word Groovy Girl really on that, so I'm just layering up bits around it. I found this little film strip which I thought would work nicely, and again it's bringing that black in to make the other colours pop on the page. That butterfly is going to create the third cluster area, and it works really nicely because there's a lot of blank space on the right hand side of that photo, so it can overlap really nicely there. And then this bottom area, I do bring in one of the stickers as the title, which just says Stay Wild Moonchild. I just think that works really nicely with the photo of the 3 girls. And I'm just trying different pieces tucked behind that to see how it all works. So I found this little strip with stars on, and I thought that would work nicely on that top area as well. And this is where I decide I want to start gluing things down. I haven't been through the stickers yet. I've got the sticker book in my folder, so I'm going to go through that afterwards. But just getting these bits down. And then I remembered that it's almost like a bottle cap, isn't it, with the word wow on it. So I think that's going to work really nicely in this cluster. So we'll bring that other flower back in and just tuck it behind there. I liked the pop of mustard that brought, because that colour's in the floral strip that I added behind the first photo. So bringing that over to the right of the page, and it's also in the butterfly as well. So those are going to sit like that with the title over the top. Just trying to make sure that I've got everything straight. Story of my life. And then moving on to this cluster on the left. So I'm going to use my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to glue this down because it's a little bit fiddly, so it's much easier than trying to work with the ATG for that. And then while I've got the glue out, I just revert to that for the other pieces as well. Again though, they're quite small fiddly pieces, so the wet glue works much better there. So just that little ticket that says feeling pretty to add, and then I can move on, once I've got that butterfly stuck down, move on to these stickers. And I'm just sticking one wing down on the paper and leaving the wing above the photo to float freely. Obviously it's going to be pushed down in the page protector, but I know that that's adding a little bit more texture. So here's the sticker book, and straight away I see a little tab which I'm going to add to that photo there and add my date using my roller date stamp. Sorry about the blurring of the camera. I keep my black ink on top of my ink stand at the back of my desk, so that's why I'm reaching up there. And then this little sticker says Groovy, and then there's this semicircle which I thought would work nicely in that little cluster there. And then this piece just says love. So So just adding that to the photo of the 3 girls. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of journaling underneath that bottom photo. This is the second photo of this evening out that I'm creating, or the second layout that I'm creating. So I didn't feel the need to add loads of journaling because I added plenty to that first layout. So these are some old Studio Calico stickers, and I just wanted to get 18 on there because obviously they're out celebrating Amelia's 18th birthday. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining me. Do check the playlist to see everybody else playing along. Congratulations, Helen, on reaching 1,000. I'm thrilled to be able to celebrate with you. See you soon. Bye.